Well, hi and welcome back to a boat called Wanda. So last week I mentioned that I'm going to go nuclear on the war on moisture. So let's take a look at what's in my arsenal for this week. Right, so a few days ago this arrived, and this is a hot-vac pump used for resin infusion. So you might remember last year when I did the deck replacement, I bought a couple of these flexible heat mats to help with the post-curing of the new laminate. And when I ordered this flexible heat mat, I actually ordered it with this hole here, which is about 15 millimeters in diameter. And that's because it marries up to one of these things, which is called a breech valve, I think. So that'll actually fit onto that quite nicely. And then the vacuum attachment can fit onto here. So if this all looks very familiar to you, it's because you've probably seen it on Sail Life, and that's exactly where I got this idea from. So yeah, thanks to watching Mads, I saw about a year ago he was trying to treat osmosis on his boat, and using this vacuum and the heat mat he was able to draw the liquids out of the hull so he could treat the osmosis. And that's basically a small DIY version of a real industrial solution called hot-vac. So basically that's where I got the idea from, and I want to try this out as a solution for drawing the moisture out of the bilge. And of course also this will become very handy in trying to draw the moisture out of the core against the tow rail, which was the old core that I couldn't get to. So there's probably a couple of different uses that I'll be able to use this for, and maybe even some vacuum infusion later on. Right, so let's give this a go. I've got my heat mat here, and I put on this black, it's almost like blue tack, but it's a special sort of high temperature, high vacuum thing, and I just want to put this on there. It's going to be a little bit fiddly. Got the pump set up there, resin catch pot, so I can see the vacuum pressure as well. Okay, just need to seal this up a little bit better. A few areas where there's a bit of a leak. That's pretty good. Okay, so I think I've got a good seal there. Now it's a matter of getting the heat going. Right, so now I have to set this. Okay, so just in case, I think I'll keep this handy, you never know. Okay, 45 degrees, nice and toasty. Pressure looks good. I have to keep an eye on the oil level. Make sure it's never run without oil. Well, that's my cruising temperature. 80 degrees Celsius. Okay, so just let it do its thing for a few hours and come back and check it. Right, well I've been running this setup for 6 hours now. So let's get down and see what's going on with it. All enough to touch. I'll do that. And then I imagine it's going to be a bit of a mess, this sticky stuff. Well, it's done its job, it's made a good seal. Yeah, I'll let it cool down just in case, because it's still pretty warm, just in case that interferes with the moisture meter. I'll come back once it's a bit cooler. Right, well here goes. Let's see what it's going to do for us. No. Oh gosh. Oh, come on. Well, I don't know what to say. I've run that for about 6 hours. Maybe it's just not hot enough. But I really don't know what to do. Bugger. Okay, well this is day 3 of running the system that I've got here, which is using a hot mat and quite a strong vacuum to try and heat and draw moisture out of the laminate. Now, unfortunately, it's not really working as I'd hoped it may have. I started out first of all putting it inside the bilge. My first test that I did, I ran it for about 4 hours at 85 degrees. I then made my second run. I moved the mat down inside the bilge to the next section below. This time I ran it for 8 hours at 90 degrees, thinking that hotter and longer would then get more than that, say, 10% shift in the moisture. After 8 hours I went back and checked it, and unfortunately nothing had changed. So Where it was 80 before, it remained 80 after. Where it was 70 before, it remained 70 after. So I then tried a third position inside the bilge, and this time I ran it for not 8 hours but 12 hours, and that was even weirder because what I found was that it actually increased the moisture level. So where it was 90 before, which is quite saturated, it remained 90 afterwards. Where it was 70 before, it actually had gone up to 90. So the only conclusion I could draw by that was that somehow there's this well of moisture somewhere, or this resource of moisture, and wherever you put the mat and the vacuum, it just draws the moisture from that source to where the mat is, and then the surrounding areas actually elevate rather than it going down, it's elevating it. So that was one idea I had. The second idea I had was there's still too much of a coating inside, and it's not really allowing the moisture to draw through that coating. So that's why I've decided to run it on the outside, because on the outside, obviously this whole area's been peeled back, so there's no gel coat, and there's that outside layer of laminate's been peeled off. So this should be quite porous and allow any moisture to come through if it wasn't able to come through from the inside out. That still doesn't really make sense to me, because when they use this as a hot-vac system for osmosis, obviously they don't go to the inside of the skin and get rid of all the flow coat. So they're actually only doing one side. So, you know, it shouldn't stop the moisture from moving from the outside in or the inside out. I don't know, it's just real trial and error, but I'm really disappointed that the theory of being able to use this hot-vac system, which is what they use for osmosis, isn't working for just drawing moisture out of laminate, in this case the bilge. So I don't know what to do next. I'm going to let this run through, and then I'm going to do some more measurements. And I guess as a last step I can go back to the inside of the bilge and grind back a little bit more of the layer, just in case that's what's stopping the moisture from coming through. But yeah, I'm a bit disappointed it's just not working out as I'd hoped it might. So it's great that I've been able to borrow this. I borrowed this from Anthony Harrington, who's the contractor that did all the topsides repair on the side, and did an amazing job and got it really round. And this tool really helps out with that. It's great for two purposes. First of all, you can skim it to get a good length of skim going. But the other really great use for it is it shows you immediately like what the shape of something's like. So for example, here on the transom, you can see by the light coming through this board that it's quite hollow in the middle here, and that the top and the bottom are sort of proud or level, and then in the middle there's this big curve. So I need to also skim it around this way if I want to get it perfect. Obviously I've skimmed it down this way and got a really nice curve back into it. Once I've rubbed this back a little bit, I then need to bridge these areas, but it's best to do it once this has been sanded back. to reduce the amount of thickness that you need to put on there. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back and do another skim this way. Then that should get this transom looking really good. Right, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a treat and a break from all that sanding and skimming and waiting for things to dry out. So these came in a couple of weeks ago, and although I don't necessarily need to open them right now, I'm pretty excited to see how they've come out. Ooh, lots of bubble wrap. So this is the good stuff. What we have here is a 1 1/4 inch Groco through hole valve with a backing flange, so that this will make a really solid, secure base down to the shell. So that's one. And I bought 2 to start with, just to see how they go and to check the sizes and everything. These came all the way from America. They're really hard to find in the UK. And in this box there should be, yep, a through hull and a hose tail. Well, they're really impressive. They're really solid. This will go onto the shell, and this goes through on the other side. So finally I can go and get that piece that I made a week ago. Now hopefully this will come apart. This is that fiberglass sheet I made up, which I wanted to use as backing plates, and it feels a little bit stuck together. But it's not too bad. It's the best part. Ripping off peel ply. Cool, so that's bang on, 1/2 inch. Obviously it doesn't have to be exactly 1/2 inch. It's got a really nice texture to it. Actually, I shouldn't have used the peel ply. It's better without the peel ply. It's really smooth. So basically I can now cut up some of these. So this is my backing plate. The flange will go onto the backing plate. This will then go onto the shell, and that's my seacock. Cool. There's something funny going on around here. This is incredibly damp. This is the engine mounts. So I'm going to have a little bit of an inspection, a little bit of a peek in here. And in here. Oh my god, look at this. That is liquid. Stinks of styrene. This is just absolutely liquid. It's running down there. It's like Niagara Falls, and it's all coming from this engine block. So this is the reservoir, you know, this is the storage tank. This is the thing that's keeping all the moisture, and wherever I put that vacuum around here, I'm sure it was just sucking it from here down towards the point of vacuum and making all the surrounding areas damper than they were to start with because of this. So wow, I'm really curious to get inside here now. But look at it, I mean, it's just constantly running out. Wow, look at all that water down the bottom. That's everything that's just run out of the hole that I drilled up here. It's very satisfying to release that. Need to do a little bit more investigation to see what's going on here. This is timber here in this engine bed, and they've just wedged sat the timber down on a bed of this grey sort of cement filler which they use everywhere, and then just tapped it over. You can see there's a little bit of a line, black line here where the diesel level was, so it's actually got in under here. So this laminate here is actually a little bit soft too. Well, at least all the water was able to drain out. I'll just do a few more tests along here and try and open it up a bit. Well, I've just uncovered another reservoir of sin here. So I've drilled in under here. Same thing, it's just like dribbling out. and it smells very much like styrene, so it's a combination of water and fiberglass that's broken down. So still a bit of a mystery. Where did it come from? Maybe these holes here, the engine mounts, they weren't sealed, so water comes down here and sits here. Water and styrene, so obviously it's not being sealed up properly. But again, you know, that's what's been making the moisture meter read pretty high around here. So best to get it all opened up. Okay, so I'm just setting up the heat mat in this cockpit locker to try and draw out the moisture that's left behind in some parts of this core against the tow rail on the side here. So yeah, I've just set that up. I've got the I've plugged up all the holes around here, so hopefully I've left these unplugged. So hopefully it'll draw the air from here all the way through the core. So the more, or the further the air moves through the core, I guess the more likelihood of drying it out it becomes. I've also got this heater set up here just to create some nice dry warm air in this room, so you know it gets sucked into there as well as using the heat mat. So yeah, I'll just fire it up. And I'll leave it for about 6 hours and come back and see how it goes. Okay, so I've let this cool down. I've run this for about 6 hours yesterday. So let's get in here and take off the heat mat and undo everything, and then yeah, do some moisture readings. I'm going through a lot of this black tape, so I'm hoping I can salvage this and then reuse it. Okay, so from the outside it's not as good. Things have moved. This was 85, now it's 70. This is 80, now it's 60. This was 85, now it's 65. It's still 80 along there. Well, I'm getting a little bit frustrated because I want to wrap up this update for the week, but I really wanted to show that I'd got the moisture levels down on the kill so everybody can sort of move on. But that's not happened. No matter what I'm trying, I can't really seem to have a great effect on it. So last attempt to try and really change things up, I've borrowed this gel planer and I've just put a new set of really high quality blades on it. It's going to be pretty tight, but I'm going to try and get this down into the bilge and take off you know, the outside layer. I did a little bit yesterday with my standard planer, and what's underneath looks pretty good actually. Once you take that outside layer off, the inside is a lot whiter and the fibres look good. So yeah, maybe if I do this it's going to dry out a little bit easier or faster, but I've got no idea. It's really just trial and error and just trying all these experiments. So far nothing's really worked, so I'm not sure this will either. But anyway, let me try this out and see how we go. Well, unfortunately I'm going to have to leave the update here, and I have to be honest with you, I'm a little bit disheartened by everything because nothing's really gone right in the last couple of weeks, and it's always nice to end an update on a good note, and this isn't going to be one of those. So let's look at everything that's gone wrong. First of all, that sort of hot-vac system that I made, it's just not worked to dry moisture out of the keel. I've had very limited success, where at one point I saw the moisture levels drop by about 10% according to that moisture meter. But unfortunately, no matter what I do, how long I run it for, what temperature I run it at, I just can't seem to move it by more than 10%. It just sort of plateaus at that level and then doesn't move again. And so that's really strange, because obviously I saw Mads do it on Sail Life, and I thought, well, if it works for osmosis, it might work for my keel, but it doesn't. And thinking it through, I guess that could be because osmosis is a different problem. My understanding is with osmosis, you've got these free glycols, which are hygroscopic and attract moisture and water to them, so you need to draw them out of the laminate. And so maybe with them they're closer to the surface and they boil off at a lower temperature, so I don't know. What I do know is it's just not working for me for this particular problem, and so I probably need to put it aside and think of something else. The other thing that's not really worked out using that heat mat is it's not really dried out the core either, which I was sure it was going to be effective for that. And again, it doesn't matter how long or what temperature I run it for, it just doesn't seem to be able to shift it. And in fact, I had more luck using the vacuum cleaner, and yeah, I appreciate some comments about not burning out the vacuum cleaner. I did actually run a fan blowing on the vacuum to try and keep the temperature reasonable so it wouldn't overheat. So if anyone has some kind of opinions or ideas on this, for some more information, the vacuum that I bought, that's resin vacuum, is good to about 12 microns for vacuum strength, and I was running it at about -1 bar. Yeah, and finally the last piece of bad news is Rob's not going to be able to paint this for me. So despite getting the bowl beautifully fed and skimmed and getting the last bit of primer on and rubbed back, yeah, he's got too much work on and is not able to paint it, and that's a major blow to me because I was hoping to have a nice shiny white with a blue stripe hull on the next week. And it also means I can't take Wanda out of the shed. She's in here for another year because basically we've run to the end of the season and it's just getting too late to paint it now. And in 2 weeks' time I'm not going to be free, so we've lost our window of opportunity. Yeah, so can't paint Wanda, can't dry out the keel, can't dry out the core. It's all feeling a little bit grim at the moment. I did want to tell you about my new fuel tank idea, and as some of you have hinted at or suggested, I'm actually going to make my own fuel tank using the space in the keel, but I've run out of time, so I'll tell you more about that in a future update. Okay, I'll see you then. Thanks.